So you may or may not have heard that the new computer game Baldur's Gate 3 came out a few days ago. I've put in over 12 hours of gameplay thus far because I wanted to see what its plot and what its story is all about. Is it worth it? Is it something that you should be getting into? Is it something that you should look at as an alternative to playing around the table in these dark, dark times? Well, I think so. Here's why. Now, a little warning. There are spoilers coming up. Hello and welcome to this very special edition of How to Be a Great GM. My name is Guy, and normally we don't do this kind of thing, right? I mean, it's not really what the channel's about, but I mean, it's very rare when a computer game comes out that embodies the essence of one of the basic TTRPGs out there. And of course, I'm talking about Dungeons and Dragons and Baldur's Gate 3, which came out a couple of days ago. So it's still in very early access alpha. There's still lots of bugs going on. But I decided, you know what? Let's have a look and see, can a game get even close to comparing to what we do around the tabletop? We'll find out more after this. Allowing me to purchase the game, which came in at a pretty hefty price tag for early access, I should say, was Tabletop Wizard, the reincarnation, the reinvention of our beloved RPG Table Finder. So there are over 40,000 players now on RPG Table Finder, or now as it's called, Tabletop Wizard. Why has it changed its name? What's new? What's come up? Well, it's board games and war games, as well as TTRPGs. So if you're looking for a bunch of people to pull around the table, stay tuned to the end of the video for more details. I play a lot of computer games, it's true. I mean, I'm an all-round geek. I am. Now, what I have never played, though, is any of the D&D games. So Baldur's Gate, never touched them. Neverwinter Nights, never touched it. Why? Well, because I can play my own D&D with real people and have infinite solutions. I mean, that's part of the beauty of this game, is that we're not railroading, right? I don't need to be locked into dialogue that the AI kind of just goes and loops and loops and loops and loops. So I don't do that. Now, Baldur's Gate 3 interested me not because of the game, but because of the plot that it hinted at with all of the trailers that were coming out. Now, who doesn't like mind flayers, right? So I picked up a copy and I did a bit of a playthrough online. It was only a 3-hour live stream. You can find it on Great GM Live, by the way. But I was hooked. I was hooked because the plot was evolving and it was changing and it was so cool. I was like, well, how does this compare to our method? Let's see if it ticks all the boxes. As I said at the opening of the video, it does contain spoilers, and I've said it now a couple of times. So, all right, so I've been playing for just over 12 hours, and I think I have finished most of the side quests, and I think I've got a pretty good grasp on what the plot actually is. And if they continue doing what they have been doing in this first act, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be an absolutely amazing game. All right, so let's test it against our 1-to-1 method. Let's test against that. So in Act 1, which is as far as the official info from the makers of Baldur's Gate 3 have told us, this is Act 1. This is the alpha is Act 1. We need to have our introduction to our situation. We need to have our introduction to the goal, and we need to have our introduction to the villain. Now, the opening cinematics and the opening scenario is full of all of this information, except that it's not. It's misleading, which is brilliant. So what seems to be a routine escape, you know, from a mind flayer airship that's being attacked by red dragons, you know, the usual kind of stuff, we suddenly realize that there's more to it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, so coming back. The situation, all right, the situation that's presented to us is incredibly dynamic and exciting. And I mean, if this game continues on that latitude of exploration that it has offered so far, it's going to be the best game ever. Now, there are at least 4, or now I'd say 5 distinct groups fighting over the singular plot point that our PC has inside his head or her head, whatever you so choose. And each of these factions are brilliant. We can align with either of them. We can kind of work our way forward and work out who we're going to work with. Now, the factions all seem to have very different goals around the same object, which is fantastic. And I really like to see that we were free to choose which one we wanted to side with, good, evil, or neutral. And I'll talk a bit more about that later on. Now, yeah, it's a very open decision in terms of what's going on. So the situation is very dynamic. Now, the goal was great. We met the goal in the opening cinematic. It's very railroad, but it's wonderfully done. And I mean, it's so much so that I didn't care that I had zero choice in the matter. I was just watching the cinematic. I was like, I want to watch a movie. I don't actually want to play the game anymore. And of course, it's a computer game, so you got to start somewhere. So you are infected with a parasite from the Mind Flayers. And so you go, oh, the goal is to get rid of that. But there is so much more to it, which is what I like. So you go, okay, so we've got to get rid of this thing. Now, this is the only part where I think they failed, in my opinion. And I hope that they're going to adjust it for the final release once they've got all their acts in place. Because their core sentence is, the heroes want to remove the infesting parasite from their brains before some time in the future, which may be tomorrow or next week or some time in the distant future. And they're having difficulty getting it because whoever tries to remove it realizes that it's being protected, and protected possibly by a god, and is also fighting to try and get it for themselves. Now, they purposefully repeated numerous times, the makers of Baldur's Gate, repeatedly, oh, we don't know how long we've got, but we should be quick. Could be tomorrow, could be next. So the sense of urgency is zero. Now, I know why they did it. They want you to do all of the side quests. But I was running around, I think it's called Elturagard, which is the region that we're in. Elturagard, I think, next to Elturel and Baldur's Gate. And it was like, yeah, there's no urgency, there's no time pressure, because we don't have a sense of how much time we actually have. So that's tricky. I think they missed that one. Okay, introduction of villain. Right, that's the third point. Right, our nemesis, really, it's not the villain, because there's lots of villains. The game's got some beautiful villains in it. I really enjoy them. And at first you're going, oh, it's the Mind Flayers. Oh, I want to fight against Mind Flayers. That's so brilliant. And then by the first hour of the game, you're like, oh, it's not the Mind Flayers. Oh, there's more to this than meets the eye. Who is the real nemesis? You start to get a sense of the real nemesis as you play through the rest of the act. Now, the nemesis they're using is a mastermind nemesis, someone that we know of. We can't get to them, but we know that they're there and that they're doing stuff and they're twisting and they're causing things to happen. And we have no real power to stop them. We've just got to stop their villains that they keep sending out for us. So it's a wonderful political mishmash that they have put together, and they've got devils coming in, and they've got this coming in, and they've got that coming in, and there's Mind Flayers and Githyanki, and you're going, oh, it's just so brilliant. I want to explore more. Tell me more. I want more. And what I particularly like is that, now, again, I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, let's go back. Okay, so what about the PC? Because often I find that when you're playing these games, it's like you're the hero because you are the person who bought the game, and so that's why you should care. Baldur's Gate 3, a little bit of that, but at character creation, you make your love interest, which I think is brilliant. It's LGBTI friendly, which is wonderful. There's no discrimination. There's no choices like you want this or you want that. Go ahead. This is the person that your character dreams about, absolutely is in love with, and you're going, oh, that's so touching. And then you start to meet them through one of the various narrative devices they use. They use dream sequences. They use NPC infodump. They use discovered lore, so books and paintings on walls and stuff. They use history checks and religion checks, and just all of this stuff reveals more about the plot, reveals more about your plot. And then your lover is there, and so it does get you in a lot better. It does get you a lot better. So, yeah, I believe the story and the plot is really well done. I mean, I think that's evident. I like the PCs being able to be truly evil, or good, or neutral, or in between, without judgment from the game. My NPC companions, they're like, oh, disapproves. And that's fine, because that's what happens in real life. But the game itself is not like, you now have evil points, or you have good points. It's, you want to go and kill the little kids? Go kill the little kids, you monster. Or save them, your choice. Anyway, so what is the next act going to give us, and who is really behind it all? That's it. So I've got a few ideas on these, and this is my prediction for the rest of the campaign based on what I've experienced so far. There is a goddess of darkness known as Shah, and she's playing a dangerous game. She's pitting all of these different political actions, agents, against one another, because I think she's trying to build up a powerful space to take over the astral plane and the prime material plane, although I think that's a secondary goal. She's fueling the Githyanki and the Mind Flayers, driving this cult of a goddess on the planet, and just really pushing that war between everybody. And I think even the planes of hell, Avernus, or Avernus as they say, is going to get involved, and it's all kind of going to converge on Baldur's Gate. And we as the player, as the PCs, are right in the middle of that. And that's what I really like, is if they continue doing what they've done so far, where you can choose which faction to join, you are going to ultimately be able to choose, I actually want the Devils to win, or I want the Githyanki to win, or I want the Mind Flayers to win. I think it's really, really, really great. And I haven't seen that kind of open latitude for outcome in a long time, and I hope that's what they're going to be doing. So those are my obviously enthusiastic thoughts on Baldur's Gate 3. They did not pay for a review. This is not sponsored by them. We paid them money to review their game, and I'm glad that we did, because I think it's a very strong one. So what are your thoughts on it? Have you played it? Are you going to touch it? Are computer games not your thing? Is this all just mumbo-jumbo meaninglessness to you? Do you want me to talk about more computer games? When we look at these kind of options and things, I could go a lot more in depth. I've purposely kind of avoided it because we still got a long time to go before this game actually comes out in full, and my predictions could be completely wrong. But as the player, I'm sitting there going, okay, well, we've been given this information by the GM. Lots of lore about the goddess of darkness and fighting against certain groups. Lots of lore about the Githyanki seeking the ultimate weapon. Lots of lore about the Mind Flayers, and strange stuff going on the Mind Flayers ship. There's so many unanswered questions that I have about that, and I'm hoping that they will be answered in time. Now, one of the final points, I mean, I know I'm rambling because I really have to, because I really like this game, and I think it's if you are someone who enjoys computer games, if you enjoyed Dragon Age, if you enjoyed Mass Effect, and to I would imagine a large degree Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 and Neverwinter Nights, then I think this is probably the strongest offering that we've got from the bunch. Certainly just from this pre-alpha, it's like there's so many choices, so many threads to follow up. This is a great GM at work here in terms of telling us the story. I hope they keep it going the whole way through. And if we're involved in this goddess trying to manipulate interplanar war, I think that's just brilliant. I think that's going to be absolutely brilliant. Yeah, what are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments down below. And hit that like button. It saves a druid. Every time you hit the like button, a druid's grove gets saved somewhere. For now. You know, it'll change. Tabletop Wizard launched yesterday, and we are incredibly proud of it. Or I should say, I'm incredibly proud of the Web Goblin, because it's really his baby, and he's been doing all the coding in the background for months now, and he's been upgrading the site and trying to make it work more for people across the platform. So we now have support for board games and war games. So if you play online using something like Tabletop Simulator or Virtual Tabletop or something along those lines, or you play with Zoom and you've just got cameras in position, or maybe even you're looking for a group of friends in your area to get around a table with you at safe distances, of course, then Tabletop Wizard is for you. It is the reimagining of RPG Table Finder. All of the usual features are still there. It's still free to use, and you can go now create a profile for what RPGs you like to play, what board games you like to play, and what tabletop war games you like to play. And who knows, you might find someone who's into all of that kind of stuff. Like I said at the beginning of the video, total geek here, so I've got my war game on, I've got my board games on, obviously you can see those behind me, and yeah, it's designed to help you to find people to play with, and you can analyze and look and see each person's profile and all that kind of stuff, so you can really get to grips with the individuals before you just randomly meet up with them. Anyway, that is Tabletop Wizard, and big thank you to the Web Goblin for doing that. Well done, mate. I think you've done a fantastic job, as do the 35,000 people who currently use the site. Yes, until next time, I wish you and yours the very happiest of gaming.